November 7th, 2016. I'd like to call the Newfane Selectboard meeting to order. Welcome everybody in the audience, BCTV and the board members. Is there any additions, amendments to the agenda?
I do have one.
Hearing none. Go ahead.
I do have one, thank you. I just, since we have surveillance cameras now, and we have had a lot of trouble in the past with people putting all kinds of illegal dumping kind of things into the recycling bins, I was wondering if we could have some kind of signage. We had talked about this a few months before, and I think it's time, because on Saturday we went there and found a whole television console.
It's already ordered.
And it is already ordered. And can you tell me what it says?
Shannon can. She wrote it out and had me order it. This area is under 24-hour surveillance, and there'll be a $500 fine for illegal dumping, something like that.
Okay, great. And so it's on order?
It is. I ordered it last week. I don't know when it'll be here, but I did order it through
All right, thank you very much. That's all I was concerned about.
Anybody else have anything? Hearing none. We go down to the minutes. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to accept.
The minutes of October 17th, 2016.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2016 as written. Are there any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? The ayes have it. We're down to the road foreman's, road commissioner's report. Somewhere here. The roads are, we are actually grading roads as the weather permits, as long as we don't get any real cold weather or snow. Most of the roads are in pretty good shape. The crews spent a lot of time after the last snowstorm that we just had cutting trees out of the roads during that particular storm, and we're still actually picking up limbs and stuff out of ditch lines and stuff like that. That was a bad storm. We're still doing some cleanup, yeah, on the limbs. Okay, so equipment. The crew has serviced the backhoe and the loader. They've also sandblasted and painted some of the dump bodies. Now we're going around fluid filming the trucks and the dump bodies to try to protect the frames in the trucks from too much rust and salt. The 2015 F550 has new snow tires on all the way around, all 6 tires, and the backhoe has new tires on the front. I did get a hold of Jeff Russ, and he has the Winslow Hall winterized and it's closed for the winter. We probably won't restart that until about 2 weeks before town meeting. As far as the town garage goes, Frank Saponsky's replaced 2 of the small entrance doors. They were getting pretty rusty. They're metal doors. We need to replace the lower panel on one of the big doors. We've been replacing them slowly as well, because they are also starting to get rusty. I'm going to get a hold of Efficiency Vermont to see if they still have programs out for lighting the lights on the outside of the building. 3 out of the 4 aren't working, and they're very expensive bulbs to replace. It'd be much better for us to have LED lights put up out there. And it would be easier and cheaper to run those lights, so I'm going to try to get those done. The Jones Hill project is done. That's the project that we talked about last meeting, getting the culvert, 3-foot culvert replaced. There was 80 feet of it. Fitzpatrick's did that work last week. It came out very well. As far as bridge work, we have been written up by the state of Vermont for repairing 3 bridges. 2 of the bridges, it's bandrail work that needs to be done, because the bandrail on one of them is falling down. Not really falling down, but it's not in real good repair. And the other bridge, the bandrail is very low to the ground, so they want us to replace the bandrail on both those bridges. The other bridge is on Baker Brook Road. It's a little tiny bridge that we put a deck on a couple of years ago and it's got new bandrail, but the abutment has gotten undermined from the water, I had Daniel's Construction come up and take a look at that. He's supposed to be giving us a quote. He faxed me one, but it didn't print, so the
It
garage.
was in my inbox.
Right.
So it was, well, we can look at it, but it
Yeah.
was like 500.
It's not bad. And I've also got Lafayette Company. That's all they do is band rail. They're coming to look at both bridges to give me a price on both of those. There's money in the budget for both bridge work and band rail. I would suggest to the town or to the select board that we get this done as emergency work so that we can get that off the hit list for bridges. We have some paperwork here somewhere tonight we have to sign.
Yeah, there's 3 that need to be signed by all of them.
Basically just telling them what our plan is and making sure that we get it done, because if we don't get it done, they could come back to the town and not fund some bridges, and if we don't do anything with it, we're gonna be liable if somebody gets hurt on those bridges, so,
Will this happen before winter?
yeah, hopefully. I'm waiting to get Lafayette down here, but they'll do it even in the winter anyway, so.
Yep, okay.
Daniels is ready to come down anytime, do that little bridge, the abutment work, which should be done right away, because that's gone underneath the abutment quite a ways. Just a matter of pouring cement under there and then putting riprap on the face of that wing wall. As far as winter sand goes, Fitzpatrick's will be delivering the winter sand soon. Otherwise, I don't have anything. I would like to have somebody from the select board kind of make a motion to get these 3 bridges fixed, though.
I'll make a motion to get the 3 bridges fixed and repaired as soon as possible.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to fix the 3 bridges that are in question with VTrans as soon as possible. Is there any discussion?
Will we go for 3 bids and the lowest bid?
I think being emergency work, we should just get it done before, otherwise we're gonna be another month or 2 into it before we can even, we take bids. Lafayette's the only one I know of around here that does banjo work. They're out of somewhere up north, but that's the only company that I know of. And Daniels did a bunch of work on that bridge before, so he knows that bridge pretty well, and it's not that much money. It's $5,500 or something like that, Shane said.
This is probably below your limit anyway.
I don't know what the limit is.
I think it's,
I don't remember. It's
sort of
right around there.
Somewhere around 5,000, you can do it by phone bids.
Right. The band drill, I don't know what it's gonna be yet, because I haven't, like I said, they haven't come down yet. They're supposed to have been down whenever day that the storm was, and obviously they didn't come down that day. Well, is there any other discussion?
Money is in the budget for this?
Yeah, we have 30,000 in bridge repairs, and there's 8,000 in band drill
Okay.
repairs, so. We could put all 3 of the bridges under bridges, or we could split it up, do some band drill, whatever, so. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? The ayes have it. What do you want to make a motion to accept the road foreman's road commissioner's report?
Motion to accept the road commissioner's report.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the road foreman's road commissioner's report. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? The ayes have it. We just talked about VTrans recommendation on the bridges, so we're at scheduled members of the public. Lou Bruso.
Myself. I'm the chair of the Woodland Solid Waste Management District, and I'm here because we're about to vote on our budget, but unlike normal years, we've actually got 2 budgets that are under consideration. So we wanted to give select boards the opportunity to giving us some thoughts regarding that, and to recommend to their supervisors how they think that they ought to vote. So let me start by giving you a little history. As you know, about 20 years ago, there was no recycling in this county, and Woodland Solid Waste Management District was formed. We have the landfill down in Brattleboro, and we created a facility called the MRF. The acronym is MRF, and it means a Materials Recovery Facility. We started that, and we started putting containers around all the towns to begin collecting recycling, and that was really the only game in town. If you wanted to recycle, you recycled with those units. Those units are important to us because we need to have a lot of materials in order to make the MRF itself pretty productive. And that program has worked very, very well for the 20 years. I'm very proud of it. It was an opportunity for the public sector to come in and do something that the private sector wasn't doing at the time, and I think we did a very nice job at doing that. Things have changed though over the years. We have basically 3 different types of towns in our district. We've got 19 towns, and I happen to be the representative from Jamaica. We have 19 towns, and those towns are a mixture of transfer station towns like Jamaica. They have towns which have their own transfer stations. Most of our people bring their stuff, both their trash and their recycling to the transfer station, or in some cases they have caretakers who do that for them. But basically it's not done with private haulers. Then there are towns like Brattleboro, Westminster, and Vernon, which have curbside trash and recycling pickup. And then we have the third type of towns, which is the type of town Newfane is, which is what we call our 24/7 towns, which means we have those boxes out in the public for 24/7. And I'm glad to hear, by the way, that you did put in a surveillance camera. So that should help you with your trash problem. But anyways, each of those towns has a sort of separate kind of need for recycling. Brattleboro is getting a little bit concerned, and you've, I'm sure, seen a lot of articles in the newspaper from Brattleboro over the last couple of years. They're concerned that they pay for recycling pickup through their curbside program, and they're also paying their fair share of the assessment, which they feel that they're not getting as much value out of that collection because they pay for it as part of their town taxes. So there's a little bit of concern from Brattleboro from that perspective. The transfer station towns are a little bit different in that they have to provide recycling service. So if the district wasn't doing that for them, then they have to do it on their own. So then they have the third type of town, which are 24/7 towns, where the boxes, which used to be the only game in town, aren't necessarily that anymore, because with Act 148, anybody who provides trash pickup has to also provide recycling pickup. So most people in Newfane either bring their trash to the Wind Solid Waste District, and they can also bring their recycling there, or they have private haulers come in, like Triple T or Franklin or Reed. They come in and pick up your trash, and they also have another route where they come and pick up your recycling. So the 24/7 boxes have become a little bit more of a convenience. And the reason they're a convenience is because if you're an avid recycler like I am, and I'm sure most of you are, you find that you have one bag of trash for 4 or 5 bags of recycling. So you only, if you bring your trash to the district, you may only bring it there once every 2 or 3 weeks, where you bring your recycling to the 24/7 boxes perhaps once a week. So, however, the 24/7 boxes have become more of a convenience for those types of people than a requirement, because there are other ways that you can recycle. The other issue is that the MRF itself is getting older, and we've been able to keep it patched together pretty well, but within a year or two we're going to have to start making some upgrades to it. And this budget that we sent to you called Current Operations does not factor in a large capital maintenance program, but we've been putting off capital maintenance, especially on our trucks, because our trucks are getting older and are starting to cost a lot of money for servicing. So we've got to think about the future a little bit. Now, with the no MRF budget, which we'll go over in a second, what that means is that the district would stop providing recycling services, and that would be done by the private sector. And that's one of the differences now between now and 20 years ago, is that there is a private sector out there. Triple T has a pretty good program in Brattleboro. It's what's called single stream. What that means is, if you know now, we have 2 boxes, one for cardboard and paper, one for commingled, and some towns even have a 3rd box for cardboard. I'm not sure if Newfane has that or not. But in single stream, you can take it all and put it together into one pile, and that's becoming pretty popular. One of the arguments against single stream is it's not a very it's not a very clean product compared to dual stream. Dual stream, the way we do it, is a pretty clean product. The problem is, of course, that the recycling commodity market has gone way down. About 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we were putting aside about $150,000 a year towards future budgets, planning for bad times. And the bad times came, and we were pretty good for a couple of years. Then we started dipping into our reserves. We had about $400,000 in reserves about 4 years ago. Now we're down to about $25,000 in reserves. And this year we're already below that $25,000 and dipping into our next level of reserve, which we call our post-care closure fund. We have about $70,000 in excess of what our liabilities are. We've always hesitated to use that because you never know if you're going to need more than you've planned. But right now we're starting to dip into our post-closure excess at the moment. So that's the reason why we're starting to think about what we ought to do with the MRF. Whether the MRF is worth keeping, knowing we have to upgrade it into the future, or whether we ought to think about not having the MRF and forcing the transfer station towns, which Jamaica is one of them, to pay for their own recycling collection. For towns like Jamaica, their current assessment is about $14,000, scheduled to go up to about maybe $17,000 next year. The cost of doing it on our own would be about $18,000, so it's not a huge hit. There are other towns that the hit is a little bit more percentage-wise than Jamaica, but it would require the transportation towns to have to increase their combined role, where towns like Newfane would save considerably. Now let's speak about Newfane specifically. If we look at the Newfane schedule, proposed assessment for fiscal year 18 for the existing operations, we're looking at a budget of about $24,900. If we went to the no MRF option, Newfane's budget would be, or assessment would be $15,368. So you can see your share of the assessment would go down significantly if we went to the no MRF option. If you chose, if you like the convenience of having your 24/7 boxes, and we went to the no MRF option, you would have the option of hiring a private hauler to come in and to provide that service for you. So just because we eliminate the MRF doesn't necessarily mean that you have to lose those boxes. You would just pay for that on your own, similar to what the transfer station towns would do, and the cost would probably be up in the same $9,000 or $10,000 that you would save. So in essence, you could become net neutral with the no MRF option if you wanted to contract that service out on your own. So those are the basic options for the MRF and the current operations. There is one other thing that you may have read about in the paper, and that is that Brattleboro is trying to change the assessment model. Currently, our assessment model is based on population, and Brattleboro, because of the fact that they feel that they're not getting some of the same services that some of the outlying towns are getting with the transportation of the recycling commodities, is pushing for what's called a hybrid model, which is part population and part based on grand list. And you know the grand list is much greater for the towns like Jamaica and Winhall and Dover and Wilmington because of the second home populations that those towns have. So what that does is it changes significantly depending upon what percentage of hybrid model you're using. So if you were to look at the, I don't know if you have all these sheets that we sent to you. Did they get put in the packet?
Right there.
We just have.
Do you have those?
We do have,
Those are in there, okay.
There's a pack of sheets here.
Let me make sure you're reading the right one. I'm looking at the one right now called, if I can find it, will be existing operations. And it's the one called, it looks like this. It's got 100% population, grand list.
We only have one copy of.
Okay, well, basically what it does is it gives you the different models that we've been looking at. And one model based on 100% population, Newfane's existing operations budget would be the $24,393. If we were to go to a 75% population, 25% hybrid, Newfane's would go down a little bit to $23,289, and that's because Newfane doesn't have a high number of second homes. If you went to a 50-50 hybrid, which is what Brattleboro is proposing, Newfane's assessment would go down a little bit to $22,185. So you can see from Newfane's perspective, the changing of the population versus hybrid models doesn't really affect you too much. However, when you look at towns like Dover, Dover's current assessment is $15,885. Under the 75-25 model, it would go up to $28,903, almost double what the current model is. So you can pretty clearly see that the moment you get into these hybrids, the resort towns end up getting significantly hit. And unfortunately, a lot of them are threatening to leave the district, should that be the case. So there's these are all the things that are in play. So now that I've given you the quick update, I'd be very happy to talk about whatever you'd like to talk about regarding those options.
So as I understand it, for 2017, things remain the same. It's for FY 2018 that we have to be concerned.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a while to think about it.
Not really, because we're budgeting.
No, our budget meeting is actually Thursday night. What we do is, normally we put our budget out in November. This year we put it out a month early in October because we knew it was going to be an issue. And then we sent that letter, which I think Shannon, you received, passed along to the
And
select
I
board.
emailed it to all of you.
Yeah, which is trying to get everyone to think about it before our next meeting. Unfortunately, your meeting didn't come up until 2 days before our meeting. But,
So that MRF there, you're thinking of doing away with that, you say?
that's the
recycle part of it, your plant down there, right?
that's the recycling plant, right?
So then that would cut us down to 15 grand.
Correct.
To do away with the dumpsters and people just have their own stuff in it, right?
Correct. Your assessment would go down to 15,000. So
Or you could keep the dumpsters and have contract out a hauler.
Yeah.
correct.
Where are they hauling it to though, if you don't do it? Just to their own places?
Well, chances are you would haul it to. You would probably use Triple T. The other competitor is TAM out of Bennington, and you're a little bit out of their reach. So chances are you would bring it to Triple T, and then they put it into a 100-yard container or truck and ship it to Rutland. So the end result goes to Rutland, but through Triple T in Brattleboro.
So I mean, you guys are going out of it anyway.
We would be out of the recycling business.
So do you have any idea, just from word of mouth, how much that would be to contract a hauler?
I should have looked at
Triple T.
your estimate. I would guess. I don't know how many tons of recycling you have. In Jamaica's case, it was going to cost us about $8,500 to do it, and that was for 100 tons of recycling. I don't know how much. I don't know what your tonnage is, but.
I don't either.
But that's why I say it would be about the 10,000 or so that you would be saving from.
So what do we still pay for?
Pardon me?
If we don't do nothing on it, or did away with it, right? And hire somebody, what's the other rest of it? You said it's still like 17,000?
I mean,
Does
if
that have
you,
to be in the district or something for you guys, or what's that for?
well, the district would be 15,000 if we did away with the MRF. And what that covers is your responsibility as a town to provide services to your taxpayers, such as hazardous waste collection, education, education to your businesses. There's some reporting that has to be done every year. You have to write your own SWIP. So there's a fair amount of responsibility you would have as a town if you were to leave the district and try to do it on your own.
So that 15,000, you guys do that.
That's correct.
And you're-
We cover
the
all of
hazard
your
is-
liability for doing that. Correct. Winhall, for example, is already voted to leave the district. They're gonna be responsible for doing that on their own. They got kind of a nasty letter from the state making sure that they knew that if they didn't do it in time, they were in big trouble. So, but Winhall is considering doing that very seriously.
So you guys think you're pretty sure you're doing away with that plan?
We don't know. In fact, if I were to, if you read the newspaper article, I was quoted as saying it's gonna be very close. And it will be very, very close. The way the voting goes in the district is we have 19 towns, but it's based on population. For every 3,000 people you have in your town, you get a vote. Brattleboro has, I think, 12,000 some odd hundred. They get 5 votes. They get an additional 6 votes because of the fact that they're the host community. So they get 6 votes. Westminster has population just over 3,000. They get 2 votes, and every other town gets 1. So basically, there are 25 votes that will be cast, and you would need 13 to eliminate the MRF. And right now, I can count 12 that are going to vote that way. And the question is, there are 3 or 4 swing towns, if you will, who will decide whether that happens or not.
Point of clarification, so if you close the MRF, you'd still be a landfill?
Well, the landfill is closed. So we would not be a landfill, but we would still be responsible for the closed landfill.
Okay, would you be receiving trash?
No. Well, yes, we will in a convenience center, but we won't be landfilling it. We will be sending it to Triple T like we always do. And for example, anybody in Newfane who has a sticker to the district would still be able to bring their trash to the district, still be able to bring their recycling to the district, and you would still pay your $25 fee annually and your $3 a bag for that service. That wouldn't change.
But no metal, no wood, no...
You would have metal, we would still have demolition, yes.
So you would?
Yep. That part's what we call the convenience center. That doesn't change.
But that's under the 15 grand, right?
That's under the 50.
That's not under the other.
Right.
Correct.
So I mean, no matter what, you're just gonna probably eventually, you're gonna be out of it, so I mean, that 15,000, you might as well do away with it and hire a private.
Well, you can't do away with it because somebody has to do the SWIP for you, and somebody has
No,
to...
I mean, there's 30,000, I guess we're talking about. You said 15,000 if we do away with these things out here.
Right. And
then
25,000 is
Oh, it's 25,000?
25,000 is your normal assessment. That's what your assessment would be next year if we decided not to get rid of the MRF.
But
You
if you
decide
don't
to
get
keep-
rid of it, there's a huge increase.
Right, 20-something thousand.
It was looking at a 15% increase.
Oh, and the reason for the increase, by the way, if you remember the year before, if you look at the budget in 2015, Newfane's, let me see, Newfane's assessment was $23,289. Oh, that's incorrect. I must have looked at the wrong sheet.
That's what it's gonna go up. Right.
It was going up about 15% if they.
Well, it went down 11% from 2 years ago to last year. So it's going back up that 11% plus an additional 2%. So that's the reason for what looks like a big jump from last year, but it's actually a small jump from 2 years ago. So last year we thought we had some out-of-district revenues that we could count on. It turns out we couldn't. And we also thought we could reduce our staff, and it turns out our backlog was just way too much. We couldn't do that. So we're actually losing more money this year than we should be if we
Well,
would.
we all know it's coming. I mean, sooner or later, I mean, nothing's for free, you know.
That's right.
Everybody's got recycling. When you have these things, there's nothing good.
That's correct.
I mean, everybody's gonna pay, you know. Don't throw it away, you gotta pay.
Correct.
One of the challenges is, of course, if these aren't here, our citizens will just throw it in their trash, throw it into the garbage at
Maybe that
the
is
transfer
the
station.
dumb guy that comes
Oh.
down.
Right,
Yeah.
the dumb guy is gonna,
Yeah.
But for some
Trash
of us,
haulers are gonna take care of it anyways.
right, so for some of us, we do all of our own dumping.
You take it down, if
Take
you're
it down.
taking it down, you're taking them both down, that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Dan?
what I'm concerned about is the people who travel through on the weekends, who use these as their dumping, and if you don't believe it, they do it. You can stand here and look at the license plates
We
on a
talking
Sunday
to
afternoon,
you and the-
and boy,
Yeah.
they really fill these things up. What's gonna happen to all of that?
You can take it home with them.
I was gonna say.
Uh,
Dan?
Here.
Yeah, I just had a question. If Murph closes and you guys get rid of the dumpsters, that would mean if you haul your own stuff to the dump, the only place you could recycle would also be in Restorative at the building.
Yep.
Unless you have your trash picked up by a private hauler.
Yeah, why don't?
Okay.
So if you have to take care of your own trash, then basically there would only be one place left to recycle, and that would be at the solid waste district.
Well, you could also do it at Triple T. Triple T has a transfer station as well, although they aren't as user-friendly, if you will.
Where's that?
It's on the Putney Road, on the road to Vernon, with 121.
We're on 142.
But basically,
142, yeah.
it would all be there. There wouldn't be all these satellite places. So that's pretty different.
Yeah, it would be different. You would always be able to take your things there, but if you only take trash once every 3 weeks, but you recycle once a week, you'd end up having to go to Wyndham Solid Waste 3 times instead of once.
I go 4 times a week.
So those are the challenges that we have. So if you want to,
And the state is aware of all this, and some of the repercussions that could happen, it seems to me, is that people would not be going to recycle 3 times a week, but rather finding other places to just get rid of their recycling.
well, in theory, I wouldn't think people would throw it in their trash, because then they got to take the trash anyways, either to Brattleboro or to their hauler. So it doesn't make sense to throw it in with the trash.
Right,
It's one
Because-
less trip.
but
It just means that you have to accumulate it a little bit longer in your home if you're one of the people that recycle weekly but only do trash once every
if you're
3 weeks.
conscientious about recycling
Yep.
in the first place.
Right.
But at $3
My
a bag, why
fear
in the
is
world
that
would you
it's
put your
just going to
recycling
be
in the
thrown
garbage?
down a ditch somewhere,
If we weren't.
Okay.
or
Sometimes
out
it's-
in the back
mine
of
is
the
just
tree
$2
lot,
a load.
or something like that.
Yeah, so
Well,
we're charging $3 a bag.
That was the concern about Act 148 when they first initiated it, because pay as you throw required everybody to pay by the bag, and we found that really hasn't happened. We saw a little of that in Jamaica. We actually got the bags open. We would cut them open, and we would look for identification. We would find who the people were in most cases who threw the bags over, because there was some kind of envelope in there or something in there that had their name, and we charge them a fine. We charge them, I think, $50 the first time, $150 the second time, and $500 the third time. So we have and that's pretty much in line with the state. The state has an ordinance, which we patterned ours after, which allows you to charge up to a $500 fine. So as you're putting your surveillance cameras out there and you see people throwing trash, you can charge them a fine. And Brattleboro's done that. They've had their surveillance cameras, and they've been charging $500 fines for people who have been doing that. And that stops that pretty quick.
Went through this in another town that I worked for, and it was moving from part of your tax payment, free pickup, to a $3 a bag pickup, with changes in the recycling. As soon as we did it, all the dumps that we had cleaned up from the side of the road suddenly became populated
Right.
again. People throw their garbage out because they didn't want to they didn't know about the change of rules and didn't want to find out about it, so they just threw it out on the side of the road.
Yeah, there's always a little of that. You're never gonna, you can't influence people's behavior.
Yep.
But as I say, there are ways to find these people. And any other questions?
Will we hear from you following Thursday, so we have your changes ready for our budget process?
Correct. And I would encourage you to, I don't know if you want to discuss this on your own after I leave, whether you would like to encourage Johanna to which way you'd like to see Newfane vote at that I know she's planning on being at the, at that meeting. So if you want to discuss it amongst yourselves and,
When is the deadline?
Thursday, unfortunately, you'd have to,
Thursday.
Of this week.
of this week, yeah,
Oh.
because, that's our next, we only meet once a month,
Mhm.
so,
So out of the 25, you already got 12 that you know is gonna vote it down, right?
pardon me?
Out of the 25, you already got 12 of them that are gonna vote
That I know of, yes.
to do away with it.
Well, I know Brattleboro's got their 6 votes. You might have seen it in the paper that they've authorized or asked their representative, and the representative can actually vote their own conscience. They don't have to vote what their select board says, but that's what their select board has asked them to do.
Right, if
And-
you decide to keep it, I mean, then the budget's gonna go up considerable anyways, just to pay for the cost of rebuilding all that, right?
Correct. I mean, not this year because
Well, not this year, but another year, it'll jump right up, because that's gonna be a pretty expensive unit to put in there.
especially if we have to buy a new truck, for example, they're about $200,000 now. If like we have a baler, if that baler goes, that's a $300,000 item. So there are, it's a pretty expensive facility. We've been keeping it together pretty well. But if any one of those things starts going,
So it kind of sounds like, to me, we should vote it down, the MRF down, and then if we want to do our own private collection out here, do that, and we're not tied down to the repairs of the trucks and the repairs of the MRF.
correct.
What about the containers?
The containers, chances are they will either be given or sold to the transfer station towns because they will still need those. And
And for 24/7 towns?
24/7 towns, if you wanted them, let's say you wanted to do that on your own, we would probably, again, either give those or sell those to you. Exactly.
Okay. Since you haul our containers now, can you give us a weight that,
They generally run about 2 tons, and depends on how full they are. If they're half full, then they'd be about a ton. But the paper and cardboard's a little bit heavier than the plastic and the cans. But the average I've been using is about 2 tons.
and do you know how many times we pull per year?
I do not have that with me, but we can provide
That'd
that.
be helpful, yes.
If you were to figure you did that 1 container a week, that would be 52 pulls. And if you figured $100 a pull,
Yep.
that would be $5,200. And let's say it was 2 tons a pull, and 2 times 52 would be 100 tons, same as Jamaica. Then you'd probably be paying around $8,000 or $9,000 total for the year.
But if you got rid of MRF, our assessment would go down.
Correct.
So perhaps that would then cover the increase
Correct.
in the charges.
That's why I'm thinking you'd be net.
We might
even.
even actually be, it might even be less money than what we're paying now.
Our ongoing is gonna be 15,368?
That would be a new assessment if we went to the
So we
no-burn
got,
approach.
whatever we then have to spend the haul goes on top of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it just seems, I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems it would be less than what we're doing now. Because our current assessment was 24,900.
Yep. And with the
With the
estimate from Jamaica, using that number, it'd be 8,500. Should be the 15,368 plus the 8,500. It's not gonna be very much less.
not much less, but
No.
it's,
It'll be decimal dust
Yeah.
less.
But we
Yeah.
don't get tangled up into
Yeah.
capital needs.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you should also be aware though that there is some fluctuation in the market. The transportation price is pretty fixed, but the recycling, the commodity market goes up and down over time.
right.
So whatever right now it's at a pretty low point and looking to recover a little bit, but you can't predict. We've had trouble predicting what that will be.
I don't think we're gonna be very good at that.
We aren't either, believe.
I have a question.
Sure.
In Brattleboro, for example, where it's curb pickup, and you said that comes out of their taxes? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
they pay for someone to come around weekly, or actually every 2 weeks to pick up their trash.
Right.
Every week to pick up their recycling and their compost.
Okay, and that comes out of their taxes?
That comes out of their taxes.
Okay. Are there residents in Brattleboro who choose to have their own pickup privately? Or they all go along with?
Most of them go with the 24, they have two different programs. One is for 4 units or less, and one are for 5 units and more.
Uh-huh.
The 5 units and more are not covered by the curbside, so a lot of them will either come to the district or bring a private hauler in.
But they still have a charge on their taxes or not?
Yes,
They're paying double then?
basically, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Their landlords, their landowners who own those multi-unit
Yeah.
are paying for their taxes.
I mean, I wonder what the percentage is of people in Newfane, residents in Newfane who order
I
their
wish
own pickup versus coming here.
I wish I brought that information with me. I could have gotten it because we know how many people from Newfane have stickers at the district.
Yeah.
And I can get you that. We've estimated it to be about 50-50,
Mhm.
but I should have thought about that. I could have brought that information with me. We know how many stickers we sold in Newfane.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome. Good night.
Right,
Have a good night.
so we need to get a hold of Johanna fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Before
And let her
Thursday.
know what our plans are, which we need to discuss right now, what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I don't think you have to make a decision on the private container out here quite yet. We could do that during budgeting.
We can vote,
But you should know what,
I think the town ought to vote down the MRF, myself, just to get out of the capital.
you could do a quick vote and see.
Cause he just said it's gonna be almost, what, $300,000 or $400,000 in the next couple of years for a truck
That's
to
just
fix the
for-
MRF and
That's
that's,
just the 2 pieces of it.
yeah.
That's
Should we
just
make
a
that
few.
decision now?
I think we should vote, so we should make a motion and vote, and then we can give Johanna something to go on.
And, I like that motion that we vote down on
A second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded for the town of Newfane to ask Johanna to vote down the MRF at the solid waste district. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, or Gary, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I'm just wanting to make sure we're sure of our numbers. That we're not getting ourselves into a situation that's going to cost us far, far more than the $24,900 which we're currently spending, and that we would go on spending. As it looks right now, we're going to be very close to that same number. We're not really be saving anything, and it's going to be more complex for us. So I think we just need to be aware of that. May not change the vote, but we need to be aware.
To me, it's close. It's almost a break even.
Mhm.
If we had, what is it, triple T or something, come and contract and still leave the recycling bins there.
Well, I think it doesn't matter. I mean, this thing gets voted down, there's no more MRF, no matter what we say. though,
Right.
you know?
But
So
it's-
then it's up to us to find somebody else to take.
You might be able to contract everything right through
Triple
Triple T with the
You
containers and
can
stuff.
contract.
I think that's what he
Might be able to,
suggested.
but right now I wouldn't even think about that part. I'd save that for budgeting.
Right.
And just think about yes or no for Thursday.
Is discussion limited only to the board?
No,
This sounds like very short-sightedness to me. I didn't hear a thing about, to me, it sounds like they're trying to avoid short-term costs, and that is the repair of the MRF. I doubt that they're gonna be, the population is gonna decline. I doubt that the volume of trash is gonna decline, nor the volume of recycled material is gonna decline. So you look on down the road 10, 15, 20 years, and I can't see there being any efficiency in having individual towns go their separate ways, because I've got to believe that there are efficiencies in scale of having a central facility for the district or whatever the district is. It just seems very short-sighted to me.
the district would still operate.
Yes, but only for trash.
No, recycling too,
No,
he
it's
said.
still-
That's
still
like
have
recycling, they just won't pick
You
it
can
up
take both
for us.
down. You can still, but you have to take it down there or do it out here still.
Yeah, they're not gonna process it, they're shutting down.
They're gonna
that
take it to
facility.
Triple T, he said,
Right.
It's gonna go to
Which is-
Rutland.
I thought,
and then they're gonna go take it to Rutland. So,
I
They've
thought
been
that was
taking
the
it to Triple T
garbage.
anyway.
he said garbage and recycling will go to Triple T. and then, because he said triple T is a single, whatever they
Single
call it.
stream.
Single
They've been
stream.
bringing recycling to Triple T anyway because they can't keep up with
Right.
it because of that machine.
All right,
So-
so we're gonna be hauling it all to Casella Road.
So it's really not gonna change much. If we hire triple T out here to still have the containers, we're still doing the same thing we've always been doing.
If you go down to the recycling center in Brattleboro, you'll see that this is only a continuing process for them. I think they've discovered that the efficiency was great, but the economy is just not there. They can't sell the material.
Well, that's today. But
That's true, and
you gotta look further down the road than 2-3 years.
it's an unknown.
Of course it is.
Ken?
And I think your point, I think that there will be people that will start dumping trash.
That's it. That's
It's
a
inevitable,
fear, I guess a fear.
sadly.
I know we'll have trash for you from other people.
Ken had his hand up.
Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I find myself, with my fellow townspeople here, you know, I share that concern about what seems to be short-sighted thinking. And also wondering too, you know, about Triple T and what their intentions are long-term and how they respond to market forces and whether we find ourselves stuck with no other alternative but Triple T, and we're at their mercy.
Right.
And that hasn't been part of the discussion yet, and it seems like it ought to be part of the discussion.
Well, they're not the only thing. I mean, I know Tan's guy who owns Tan and stuff. He's doing town of Wardsboro up there. He come in cheaper in Casella and all in and do the whole thing. And, yeah, I think he's actually been hauling some of that stuff them guys did. I think he got it away from Triple T. So there is all other alternatives, and then Good Enough just opened the transfer station too on his route. So there is people that are doing that.
Do have some options.
I mean, there's gonna be other people. I mean, these guys sound to me like they're gonna shut it down no matter what. So I mean,
Right.
what we're
Yeah.
talking about is kind of, only thing we're gonna pay is the 15 grand, and whatever that dumpster cost is gonna go away. So either at that point, you're gonna have to hire somebody else, or you're gonna have your regular garbage guy take your recycle. So I think this is all gonna go away by the sounds anyways. I don't think they have any intentions of fixing that plant.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. What you could do, I mean, there is a law, you're not allowed to commingle your recycling and your trash. You have cameras. You can start popping people to do it. You know, it's just like, you know, we run speed checks and we get some money that goes to the town. We actually were serious about people putting their trash there and we started finding people. Hopefully, it would just make them stop doing it. In the meantime, you know, you make a few bucks. Because ultimately, if we're at the mercy of some hauler, you have no idea. At some point, you just might have to say, okay, townspeople, it's up to you, take your stuff, recycle it yourself. You know, that might be fiscally prudent. It's not great for a lot of
No.
reasons other than that. But
The thing about relying on surveillance steadily is that we don't have anyone to sit
Enforcement.
and just enforce it, and watch the tapes all day long.
Right, that's-
So that it's kind of a catch-22, you know, if like you have a citizen saying, I just recycled something, I saw all this other stuff in there, you know, maybe then someone here can spend time looking at tapes.
The law is a great idea. Unfortunately, we're being forced into breaking the law because we can no longer recycle 3, 4, and 5 items, plastics, even though the law says we must.
That's right.
We really don't have a way to recycle some of the items that come from your kitchen because, well, if you recycle it on your land, you'll have bears and other critters, raccoons. But there's no place really to take it other than into WMD and then put it in the container that sits just outside the red booth, which if you've ever opened that up, it's a scary place, very scary place. So, I mean, we're being forced into situations where we have the law in place, and it's a good law, but we're also being forced as a community to have to break that law and to make other plans for what we're going to do with these materials. And it's a tough decision to be in. It sounds like a great opportunity for a recycling committee.
Well, I do
Taking
know
charge.
that there are businesses in the Brattleboro area who have gone past the throwing 3, 4, 5, 7 in the landfill and in trash containers by hiring trucks that come up from Massachusetts, where they do actually still take 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 plastics, and just because that's their, that's what they want to do. So there's still recycling going on. It's just, I don't know, I guess for where and how much does it cost and what will they take?
Oh, it's the same different. When they made it mandatory, they flooded the markets.
Right.
So go somewhere. I know of a guy that's telling me that the friends of theirs that have landfills in New Jersey and there, instead of bringing it in with the garbage, they're bringing in 100-yard trailers of that kind of plastic because they can't get rid of it, so they dump a whole 100 yards in one whack.
It goes out into the ocean, as we well
They
know.
pay it for recycling, but this, they go in the ocean, it goes over in a landfill and gets buried.
Well,
Instead of a little at a
sometimes.
time, it comes in big loads. So I mean, that's how they get rid of it. I mean, because they can't hold on to it forever because the markets aren't there.
That's right. And I understand that some of the markets have been flooded by foreign countries. And it's somehow cheaper to ship it over to a foreign country than it is to recycle it here.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, so.
I know. Well, we
Any
did
other
do
discussion?
discussing.
We
We
certainly did.
discussed it, it's disgusting, and we are now ready to vote.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining?
I'm going to vote opposed because I really wish we had more information.
I do too,
That this is a
for
very
Thursday.
serious decision with long-term implications, and I think we could come back to bite us at some time in the future, but I'm going to vote nay on this because I don't want us to get bitten.
So
But
it's
what
4 to
happens
1.
if we vote for this and then we see that it's not the
We
most
already, we
efficient?
just voted.
No, I'm saying if we did vote, can this be changed at any time?
Probably, depending on what the rest of the district does. Okay?
I mean,
But this vote
we're
is
only one
to just
vote.
basically tell
Yeah.
Johanna
Well,
what,
you can
and she
ask
doesn't
her.
even actually have
She
to
doesn't.
vote her vote as
Right.
we have said, or,
So are you gonna email her that it was 4 to 1? The vote voted down for now? And ask her, tell us the board would like to have her represent the board. She doesn't have to. but-
to vote her heart. She's probably a lot smarter than we are about this particular issue.
Okay, so. Anybody got anything else? We'll let it go for now and see what happens. Next on the agenda is Kristin Cox, West River Thrives.
Hi, I'm Kristin, and I'm the Program Director for West River Valley Thrives. And we are the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition that operates in the towns in the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union. And I'm sure that some or all of you have heard of us before. We've been around for a couple of years. But I wanted to come here really just to formally introduce myself and to just talk a little bit about our organization. So our mission is to support and promote healthy lifestyle choices with an emphasis on the prevention of alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use by young people. So we focus primarily on programming for youth generally in grades 7 to 12. That's where the bulk of our work takes place, but we also engage in some community-wide efforts, and we do some programming for younger children as well. And so we have, our organization has, we're basically entirely funded with federal and state grants. Our primary source of funding is a federal drug-free communities grant, which is good for 5 years. We currently just started our second year, and it is competitively renewable for another 5 years after that. So we're certainly in good financial shape for the time being. We plan to stick around as long as we can, but certainly long-term sustainability is always on our minds. And as far as our location at this time, I don't know if you are aware that we used to be located in the Creamery building. We have since relocated to the corner of Sawdust Alley and Route 30 in Townsend, which is just almost across the street from the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union Central Office. And We have 2 staff people this time, myself and then also our project coordinator, Kate Venn, and she oversees all of our direct programming. And we also have a new staff person starting this week, Hannah Parker, who is going to be our student assistance professional based entirely at Leland and Gray. And she's going to be working with students in grades 7 to 12, working on providing some screening and referral services and support for students who are identified as having a substance abuse issue. And also just generally providing some prevention education to students in all schools across the WCSU. And so we're definitely really excited to have her coming on board. Oh, and also one thing I can mention is that we now have a satellite office in the Leland and Gray building, which is great that we can be right there face to face with the students all the time. It certainly helps to build those relationships. And so I guess I can just talk a little bit about some of the strengths and challenges that we see across the towns in the WCSU. I mean, certainly there are a lot of strengths that we see. Just a strong sense of community and community pride, a lot of great grassroots and volunteer organizations that are just really working to create a stronger and healthier community. And it's certainly we wouldn't be here without all of the support from the communities that we work with, for sure. But as well, there are also some challenges that we see. If we're looking at the 2015 Grace Cottage Hospital Community Health Needs Assessment, certainly they've identified that poverty is an ongoing issue in our communities, as well as things like transportation and mental health issues and access to mental health services, and those are all considerations that we have to make in terms of what are the risk factors for someone to develop a substance abuse issue, and what are some protective factors that we can put in place to combat those issues. And another source of information that we use quite a bit is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is administered by the Vermont Department of Health, and that is looking at, I think now they're doing it for students in grades 7 to 12. And all the students in those grades in the WCSU take this survey. And in 2015, what we found for students in grades 9 to 12, so all the high school students, is that they are reporting in the past 30 days, 28% have reported using alcohol, and 24% have reported using marijuana, and 5% misusing a prescription drug. So, and what we've noticed is that those percentages are a little bit less than what we were seeing in 2013, and over the past several years, there's certainly been a downward trend. So that's something that we're happy to see. Certainly we'd like for those numbers to be even lower, but it's great that those numbers seem to be continuing to go down. Well, for what we have noticed along with that, comparing 2013 to 2015, is that students are less likely to report that they perceive those substances as being harmful, and they're less likely to report that they believe that their parents would disapprove of them using those substances, and also that their peers would disapprove of them using those substances. The changes are pretty small, so we can't really say definitively that it's statistically significant, but certainly we'd like to see those numbers going in the other direction, because they really do go hand in hand. I'm not going to use the substance because I think it's going to harm my body and my mind, and that's really, that's something that we need to work on and to continue to look at for sure. And I guess just thinking about some of those challenges, I can talk about some of the programming that we're doing when we're looking at some of this data and in response to that. So a couple of the Leland and Gray programs that we have, we're doing a program called Refuse to Use. And that is where students in the high school, they will take a pledge to remain substance-free for a year and also attend a series of prevention education programs. And in exchange, they get a season pass to Stratton for $35, which is a pretty good deal. And another program that we're doing for our middle school students is called Above the Influence. And students who decide to be part of this group, they're basically just pledging to be above all of those negative influences in their life. So again, above the influence of drugs, above the influence of bullying, and negative body image and things like that. And we currently have about 8 students who are part of that group. And also those students who are participate in the Above the Influence, they are also currently participating in a program called Getting to Why, which is where students they receive training to analyze their own YRBS results from their supervisory union, and then they take those results, look at the strengths and the challenges, and then they come up with an action plan to address some of those challenges, and then present all that information in a community forum. So hopefully we'll be doing that in the next couple of months. And we also recently have developed a youth leadership program that we are doing during the SEEK summer camp for Leland and Gray, and that's for the incoming 7th and 8th graders. So we just started doing that this past summer. We also provide just some guest speakers at the school from time to time, and then some trainings. And we also provide we distribute a lot of information in the community. I don't know if you've seen our the signs with the hand that says "I will be a parent, not a bartender," and that's a campaign that we did around prom time last year. And we also do a lot of social media posting, and we actually have a Leland and Gray intern who's working with us on that right now, and I just think she's doing a great job. Make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, and another thing that is good to mention is that we actually also work with a partnership of all of the Windham County Prevention Coalitions, and we are funded with a state grant called the Regional Prevention Partnership Grant, and we just work on particular initiatives together as a group as well, and we focus mainly on some policy work. And another great partnership to mention is that we work very closely with Sarah Fuller, who is the director for the after-school programs and the SEEK summer camp program for the WCSU. And certainly we want to support any healthy alternative activities that are taking place during those out-of-school times as we possibly can. So I guess what's next for our organization? We are hoping to form some stronger collaborative partnerships with the hospital, with Grace Cottage, and just find different ways that we can collaborate, for sure. And with our countywide coalition of prevention coalitions, we are working on what we're calling a prevention primer, which is basically just a compilation of information that towns can use when their town plan comes due to be reviewed, where they can integrate some prevention information into that plan. And I mean, we're really just always looking for other ways to partner with different towns and organizations, and looking for more ways that we can, help our youth and our communities to stay healthy. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I brought some informational folders for everyone, so I can pass these around. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak with you.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Are you also doing work with parents and teachers?
That's a good question. So we don't do any direct work with teachers. I guess we do some training with teachers at Leland and Gray primarily. And with parents, we're looking at different ways that we can provide more parenting support. Last year, we had tried to implement a parent prevention education program. It was called Active Parenting of Teens. But there was just really not a lot of interest in that. Like I said, it's not that the parents aren't interested. It's more that they have all sorts of other commitments and responsibilities, and we're really trying to find a way that we can support parents in a way that works for them. So we're not implementing anything at this time, but we're just exploring the different possibilities, and we're actually in the process of conducting some individual parent interviews to get a sense of just really what people are looking for in terms of support.
Thank you very much for your good work.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Coming.
Someone needed. Someone needed. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Are they currently in our budget?
Do you request money from the town every year?
We do not. We are entirely grant funded.
Good.
If you do, you'd have to have it in before December 1st.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, good to know, thank you.
Are you looking for volunteers to work with children, the students, or parents? I mean, for the community to know. If somebody in the community has listened to you tonight and would like to get involved, what could they do, if anything, to join your group?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're always looking for people to get more involved. And actually, you know, if there was anyone who's interested, we have one of our quarterly coalition meetings is actually coming up this week, and that is on Wednesday at 2:30 at our office at 24 Sawdust Alley. And that is open to the public, so anyone who wants to come and be a part of that. And we're certainly always looking for more people to get involved and more volunteers. And you know, anyone is welcome to come to those meetings, or to contact us at any time or drop by.
Do you post these meetings anywhere, or how would people know other than tonight when they're hearing you?
Right. We have, I guess, the only place where they're advertised is on we have an email list. It's about 150 people, so that goes out to all those individuals.
Is it on your website too?
It should be.
Because this one.
I think it's generally on our Facebook page rather than our website. We update that a little bit more.
This won't actually air until Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So people who are watching this will have already missed the meeting.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've had incidences twice this week where two women in different towns, one here in Newfane, one in Putney, retired people. One was a special ed teacher for over 33 years. One was a social worker with children and parents in New York City, and they're living here at this point, and they were telling me that they're very anxious to get involved and volunteer with groups who did things like yours. Now, I didn't know this until today, but how do people, that's what I think is important for you, for your group, to somehow let people know that you exist.
Right.
And that you are open to certain things like volunteering, because there are a lot of people around here who are looking for things to do like this.
Right.
Not for being paid, but to volunteer.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really good point. And maybe one thing that I can take away is that, you know, it might be helpful to put up flyers about our meetings and get more people to come in that way.
Yeah. Thank you for telling us about this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right, next on the agenda is Newfane reps from Act 46 Study Committee.
Bucky and I, Emily Long, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a Newfane representative on the Act 46 Study Committee. I'll just let you, I have a handout, which Bucky is the press release of the brochure, so I just brought one for each of you. Thank you. I know Ken was here recently, and as Todd knows, at the hearing on the town bond for the town office, Todd made a comment that kind of opened my eyes up a little bit and concerned me some about the town of Newfane's taxes. The impact on Newfane would be $100,000. And so Todd encouraged me to go back and watch the tape of the meeting, which I did. And we had a discussion at our last meeting, which was, what was it, about a few days ago? And we agreed that we need to make sure that we're very careful about throwing out numbers like that. Some of the numbers that Ken gave you actually are not aligning with the things that are in our articles of agreement that we're drafting right now. So the $100,000, I'm not totally sure where Ken got the number, but right now, without adding in incentives to the proposal, which of course they can be significant, it's at the most 39,000, and this is still early. And incentives actually takes our tax rate down lower than it is today. So I bring this up only to caution us that we're very much in the development process, the draft process of all this work. And we're trying very hard to address the needs of our kids, which is really the key to this conversation. The finances are, of course, absolutely important, but it's also very clear that our property taxes and our costs of educating kids is going to continue to go up, whether Act 46 is in place or not. We're seeing a decline in enrollment. You heard West River Valley Thrives talk about some of the great work they're doing, but the fact is that students in poverty, we're still not closing the achievement gap for students in poverty, and we are finding more and more today that students town to town, school to school, don't have equal access to the same quality education that they all need. So that's part of the thing that's driving this conversation, and we're still working really hard on this. We're meeting a couple times a month, and next month when we have our meeting, it's going to be on the 6th, no, it's this month, the 16th. We're meeting at 5 o'clock, and we're going to be discussing the opportunities for students that will come up during that conversation. We're still working on the numbers. We have to look at what our assets are and our debts are in the 5 towns. That as we're working on this, that's another piece that we'll need to put into our draft articles. They're not ready yet, but if anybody wants to see them, we can share. Please come. They're on our website. It's in that handout I gave you. There's a blog spot for our website. You can go to Wyndham Central, link into that. Bucky, I don't know if you want to share some of the
I've got a couple things. I'm an at-large representative from the town of Newfane. That is that I'm not neither on the Newfane Elementary Board or the Leland and Gray Board, but my interest in education started at Green Street School in probably about 1945, and I've been in education ever since, one side of the desk or the other. And my interest in, I served on the RED committee that we had, the Regional Education District Committee that worked, well, I guess we finished our work 2.5 years ago. And the Articles of Agreement that we are formulating now are very, very similar. The primary difference being that with the RED committee, we were looking only at pre-K through 6th grade. In this current study committee, we are looking at a unified district for pre-K through grade 12. So that it takes in the 5, we call it the 5 Leland and Gray towns that are in the Leland and Gray district, and incorporating also in Leland and Gray as well into a single unified school district. Now, the $39,000 figure, that the way that I understand it, looks only at a comparison of pre-K through 6. We do have an analysis in our Articles of Agreement that in order that, as far as I'm concerned, it's the hardest figure that we have. And it has taken the current budgets, the 2016-17 budgets for the 4 elementary schools, Newbrook, Jamaica, Wyndham, and Townsend, plus Leland and Gray, combine them into an aggregate, and then comparing that with a budget that would exist for a unified system of those same schools, and which would achieve some savings in terms, there would be a single board for that unified district. So
Wow.
you would eliminate the boards from the individual school districts. And so there are some savings in that, in having a single accounting system and other things. And then, of course, as it proceeds on down into the future, there are other efficiencies that could accumulate, and which presumably would benefit the outcome and performance capabilities of our students. But that comparing the a combination of the current budgets as they exist now for those 4 schools and the high school with a unified school district budget, the impact on the homestead tax rate would be reduced by 7 cents. 7 cents. Now, I don't know what the current grand list is, but whatever the grand list is for Newfane, multiply that by 0.07, and you would get the impact that would have occurred on 2016 and 17. Just as we were talking about the solid waste district looking into the future in school budgets, you know, they are as elusive as the town budget as to what curricula requirements they're going to want to have and such. So trying to come up with a hard figure, even for the first year of operation of the unified district, which would be 2019. If everything went into place, the towns agreed and it went into place, the unified school district would be put in place in 2019. But that's all dependent upon acceptance by the voters in the 5 towns. So that is that's the hardest figure that I have. And that 7 cent decrease is as a result of the first year tax reduction incentive that is provided in Act 46.
Yes, well, it came out of Act 153, but yes.
Okay,
It's part of
Act 153, and then followed up,
8 cents first year.
incorporated in the future work in Act 46. And then that declines by 2 cents a year for 3 more years, so 8, 6, 4, 2, and then the towns are on their own, and you know, with the hopes that there are some efficiencies that accrue that would still come to bear. But no guarantee on that, as you know, on municipal budgets. That's
So also, just following up on what Bucky said, we call those incentives, but that tax rate reduction, the 4-year 8642, were put in place, in fact, in 153 first, so that it would offset the challenges of merging multiple districts into one and trying to find the efficiencies that you would have. So it doesn't happen instantly, you know, it takes a board time to figure out whether they want to allow students to move from school to school, whether they can reduce staff because of merging districts. So those things happen over time, so that's the reason for that. There's also a $150,000 transition grant that goes with this, which also is part of that reduction that Bucky talked about. And I would just say that the number he put out there is the numbers we're looking at right now in the draft articles of agreement, but they're still draft, and even those we're not positive yet because we haven't figured in the debt and asset piece and how we're going to work all that out either. So there's a lot of work, is my point, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. We're working real hard on it. There's great committee members from the town of Newfane. I'm grateful for all 5 of them. We have differing opinions, which is what's helping us, I think, come to a better outcome of this decision. Whatever, if we decide to bring it to the voters, we're looking at town meeting day right now to bring it to the voters. Even that is not in stone. Nothing's in stone until the committee votes.
questions?
Dan?
Go ahead, Dan.
I think it's worth noting that when this law was originally proposed, what they said about it is this is about education. This is not a money-saving bill. However, as things have changed, and they were trying to get it more popular, the governor started talking about saving money. So when you hear about saving money, I would just like everyone to take note. And I'm not for or against this. I can't figure out what I think about Act 46, but the savings are coming from incentives from the state. There are no savings from efficiency because no one knows if doing this unifying of the board is going to save anything. They're hoping it's going to improve education, and that's what everybody's working hard on. This conversation has changed over time. Everyone thinks we're going to save money by joining these school districts together, and there's absolutely no backing to that thought. So that's just something that.
So I think it's important to follow up on that and say that actually there are some examples today now of savings that are happening. Chittenden East merged into one district. Well, they merged into what we have, Bucky and I were served on the reg committee, which morphed into an MUUSD, which is Modified Unified Union School District, because Wyndham didn't want to participate fully in the whole proposal at the time, and Chittenden East is an MUUSD, and they have already seen a significant savings by being able to move students and reduce staff at certain schools. And so there are actually examples of potential savings already out there. 55 school districts so far have already merged under the first year of Act 46. And now we're getting into some of the more challenging areas because we're dealing with school districts now that actually have choice, where they were not able, most of them were not able to merge in the first accelerated.
How,
Point is good, 'cause
what are
we're not-
the, what are the predictions, or if people have, if school districts have already merged, how is this affecting the children's education? If there are bigger classes and less staff, and, you know, on the one side, if you're saving money, but how is this going to affect the actual education of children? I come from New York City. I'm a retired school teacher, and you know, everything there was to try to get the classes to be smaller size, because we had classes that were just, you know, 35 to 40 kids and one teacher or maybe a para. And, you know, the basic drive all the time was to get these classes smaller, and because there was evidence that the kids did much better.
Of course, and that's true, and the reality is true for most places. Vermont is very unique in that we value our small schools, and this law is not about closing our small schools, and it is not even necessarily about class sizes. We have significantly smaller class sizes and significantly higher staff than almost every other state in the country. So we're not suggesting that that this law is going to drastically change that unless districts decide to close schools. In fact, I believe that districts are going to start to close schools if we don't find a way to reduce some of our expending. Mm-hmm. And this may be one way that we'll be able to keep some of our small schools open. That has always been the intent. We believe in the community schools, and I think that we should value them for what they are and for those small class sizes that we have. In the one-on-one instruction that we do, we have fairly good outcomes. They're not as good as they used to be, and they certainly can improve, but I think part of it is because of the kind of education that we provide our kids, and we're not, I see nothing in this law that is going to threaten that. In fact, there are some schools right now that are merging because their class sizes are really too small, mm-hmm. you know, and it's becoming more challenging for students in some communities like that, because our enrollment really has significantly declined. And in fact, last year, the prediction was that we were going to lose 800 students in the state of Vermont, which is a significant decline still, because we've been on a decline since, you know, back in 2000, in the late 90s we were declining. And we actually lost 1,200 students last year. So if that happens again this year, you know, we are going to be facing quite a number of challenges around educating our kids. So we really do need to find a path forward. And so that's what this conversation is about, this study is about, trying to find a path forward.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. I know when you first opened up, the conversation was about Act 46 being from pre-K to 6th grade and elementary school, and then now it's maybe I heard it wrong. It seems now to be into a unified school district from K through 12.
So the proposal originally, the red proposal was a pre-K-12 originally, but when Wyndham decided they didn't want to participate in that full level, it went to the MUUSD, which did merge some of the school districts pre-K-12, but would have kept Wyndham at K-6. And then they would have participated at the high school, at that merged board at the high school level, just voting on things that were grades 7 through 12. So now the proposal, it's still a possibility to do that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it still is, but this law states very clearly that we need to have pre-K-12 education systems. So that's what we're trying for, and a lot of the reasons around that are because that is research-based, that is better for our students to have a continuum of education from pre-K through grade 12. And in fact, we should be looking at it, from my own personal opinion, we should be looking at it through grade 16 as well. And try to find.
Well, I'm just thinking, because this is such a new plan, it's a new system for our education in our towns and in our counties, that instead of changing it all at once, to see what works and doesn't work in the beginning with just elementary school, rather than the entire, that just seems like that's a good way to, like a test flight.
These 5 towns already have merged their high school. So merging the K-6 is just a continuation, if you want to look at it from the perspective you're giving. But we all have a union high school, and all 5 towns educate our 7 through 12 grade students at one location. So we have already done that. In fact, that was done in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
Anybody else? Thank you for the information. Keep us informed.
We'll
Yes.
keep you posted.
That'd be good.
Stay in touch
tuned.
with us as well. So.
Do you have an idea when we'll see this prior to the town meeting? I know you want to get it on the ballot for town meeting.
So the goal is to have a ballot, an Australian ballot at town meeting. Bucky can back me up on this. We're still struggling through a lot of aspects of this. So the goal is still there for town meeting. I can't guarantee that we're going to meet that goal, but I think if we can get the answers that we're looking for, especially around what our student opportunities will be at our next meeting, we keep scheduling meetings, and so we're still working hard to do that. I have spoken to the town clerk to see if we could leave a stack of those brochures that you have in your hand at the voting exit tomorrow, and she was fine with letting us leave it, so anybody could voluntarily pick them up. What we're really hoping for is getting feedback from the community, getting the community involved. So those we're hoping will help, pique people's interest and get them to contact us and come to meetings, watch. We're all televised. I hope people will come, and if they can't come to the meetings, they will at least watch them on Bridal Community Television like yours are. And just quickly, we are the 5 Leland and Gray towns, but there is a side merger in Wyndham Central as well, and that's Dover, Wardsboro, and Marlborough, and they're doing a parallel study with us. And if we did both form unified union school districts, we would be at what we call a side-by-side, still within a supervisory union.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Appreciate your time.
Dan Dewalt, Restorative Community Justice for Southern Vermont.
I feel really bad for you guys. It's an hour and a half in the meeting. You're still in members of the public, so I would try to be really short.
Dan, can you
Dan,
move
can you come a
closer?
little closer? You have a soft voice, and so
Yes.
Oh, no.
I
Us who can't hear about it.
I feel bad for you guys because it's an hour and a half in.
No,
You're
but
still
come in
members
a
of the
little.
public. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but
Yes.
you don't want to keep talking that.
Oh, no, that's fine. I won't turn my back at you.
Okay.
So I'm here sort of the same way that Kristin was. Did you guys get a thing in your emails?
Yep.
about
Yeah.
Restorative Justice.
We have it.
Restorative Community Justice of Southern Vermont. So restorative justice, first is an overview of that. Restorative justice is about when there's conflict, when there's harm has been done. It's not thinking about retribution and punishment. It's thinking about repairing harm and restoring relationships. This is something that the high school, and this is something that is happening worldwide. In the state of Vermont, it's happening primarily in diversion cases. You get caught for something with the police, and they might decide that you, and it's not necessarily just little things, it can be fairly serious things, but if they think you're a good candidate, you can go to a restorative justice board, and they figure out a good remedy for you to do to repair the harm. That's one type of thing, and those are funded by primarily Department of Corrections, and I think perhaps the Attorney General's office. At Leland and Gray, I've been doing restorative justice work for 5 or 6 years now. We've incorporated it at school to improve results. We've reduced suspensions, we've reduced expulsions. There's stats that show that, and those are actually significant statistics because every time a kid gets suspended, their chances of dropping out statistically increase a lot. And so the school-to-prison pipeline gets an extra boost every time we suspend a kid for 2 or 3 days out of school. So having done this work, seeing its value at the high school, I started doing more, and I took more training, and I do family circles and community circles. So I've been doing this just for free, freelance for like a year or so. What became clear is, in order for this to really take root, we want to inculcate a culture of restorative practices where we live. Because we don't have that now. We have people that can't communicate with each other, that can't have an argument, that are killing each other, that are shooting drugs. I've been at the school now. I teach part-time. I teach one class every day out there. Things are much worse than they used to be. What our kids are experiencing is unfair. They come to school with burdens they should not come to school with. When we do restorative justice at the school, it does a lot of good. It gives them a different way of thinking about things. It gives them some more tools to maybe deal with their relationships in school. When they go home, it all, well, not necessarily, but for many of our kids, it all goes down the tubes. So what we want to do is get this out in the community. We want people in the community to understand how to deal with their conflicts, how to express themselves, how to find a voice. Me just putting out some flyers and doing occasional circles or whatever is not enough. So we formed a nonprofit, Restorative Community Justice in Southern Vermont. We got our bylaws done, we're getting our 501c3 in place. We are going to hire a full-time person, a regular professional job, full-time, and that person's job will be to do outreach. It's like what we were saying with these guys finding people. We need someone, and this person's job will be to go out, advertise about conflict resolution. We have a way to do conflict resolution, and the other half of what we'll be doing will be training for restorative practices. So we will be hustling people to bring their conflicts to a restorative practice situation so they can get them solved in that way. And we will also be trying to recruit within the first 2 years. Our goal is to have 36 trained restorative justice practitioners. So we will be writing grants. Our full-time person will be half the time, or perhaps more than half the time, doing outreach, letting people know that we're doing this service and trying to get them to come. The other portion of their job will be to organize trainings. And what we're going to write grants. What we want to do with the trainings is be able to say to someone, we can pay you $25 to come learn how to do this. Because people, you can put opportunities out there. I've been doing this. This is an opportunity I've been offering. People aren't taking you up. You can even say, here's the thing, come tomorrow night. That's really hard. The position people are in right now, there's no wiggle room. There's no free time. There's no time to buy a baby. There's no money to buy a babysitter. People do not have the wherewithal. Lots of people don't have the wherewithal to really be able to take advantage of things which are out there. There are things out there trying to help people. So our approach is going to be, we're going to reach out to people. We're going to offer them a stipend. We're going to pay you $25. You come 2 nights, you'll make $50. You'll learn about restorative practices, and you'll be on your way. Maybe you'll be a volunteer for us. Maybe you'll just have something that you can do at home or with your neighbors. Our goal is to get not just a handful of people to know about this practice. We want everybody to do it, everybody to know about it, everybody to benefit from it. So, that being said, I'm mostly, and the other important part is we're partnering with More Free Library, Leland Gray High School, the Wyndham Church, the Townsend Church, so far. And by partnering, I mean they are giving us facilities. So we didn't want to rent a space and have our own little space. We want to be connected with community organizations all up and down the valley. So we're going to have office hours, one day at the Townsend Church. We'll be organizing trainings that might happen at More Free Library. All these different places are basically ours to use whenever they're not otherwise occupied. And that's going to be our model. That's how we're going to continue to use, and we're going to not just stick with those organizations. So right now at Leland Gray, we're kind of organizing the restorative practices that are happening there. We're going to bring in some student panels, continue doing the circles. And so our organization is working in partnership with Leland Gray on that. And these other groups are working in partnership with us. So my current mission is running around proselytizing about this practice, which is really good, and letting people know that we're out there and just putting out the word like Kristin was doing. The difference between she and me is we don't have federal funding. So I'm also going to ask the select board to consider taking that $1,000. You're probably going to save on the transfer.
Good luck with that.
And putting it in the budget for us, perhaps. We'll have our 501c3 by town meeting, and I can bring you a specific proposal. And it'd be great. To get $1,000 would be great. The main purpose is I'm just trying to tell people about what we're doing. So we are looking for volunteers. At the moment, it's a drag because instead of doing circles for people, I'm running around trying to find rich people to get money from. So at the moment, we don't have any trainings to offer. I mean, we don't have these, we haven't found these. So if someone came to us tomorrow and said, we want to do a restorative circle, we're prepared to do that. We have people and we can do it. But everything's sort of been put on hold while I run around trying to raise money so we can hire someone to put ourselves back into serious business instead of partial business. So that's our status. I'm here. Yes.
Are you in relationship with the restorative justice and court diversion groups under the umbrella of youth services in Brattleboro?
Well, I'm in contact with them, yeah. Those guys are funded by the Department of Corrections.
Right.
And see, if you get funded by the Department of Corrections, they give you your caseload. Our purpose, the purpose of this organization, and this makes us unique in the state. I was just up at a statewide meeting of restorative practitioners in schools. From what I can gather, and I've made contact with restorative practitioner organizations all over the state. We are the only ones who are really interested in getting to people before they're in the criminal justice system. So we're talking about community
Before criminal
restorative
justice,
practices. Rather than wait, it could very well be, if this is successful and we get off the ground and we're doing what we're doing, we might expand, get another staff person through the Department of Corrections and bring in those kind of re-entry from prison is the other main work that restorative groups do. So I'm in contact with them back and forth. They're letting us in on their trainings. We're sort of working together, just like with Kristin. We've been talking back and forth. So we've been reaching out with lots of different groups. As far as what our mission is, it's a little bit different than any of those other groups in our funding stream. A little different because the funding stream they're able to get is not, our mission is not their mission.
Well, I've spoken to you in the past about this, and I have been volunteering as a panelist at Court Diversion and Restorative Justice in Brattleboro for almost 7 years, and I think that they're quite successful.
Yeah, well, it is.
And they also have trainings at times, but so I understand your organization is a little different because you're doing the family circles or you're wanting to do family circles and getting people in the community very involved. But I think it would be great. Well, you probably are. You said you are in communication with them because
Yes,
it's a really great organization.
Yeah, they got some trainings coming up this month, which they made available to our board members, for instance.
Yeah.
And once we get rolling, we'll be doing the same thing. You know, when we have trainings, and everything we're going to do is free. You do one of these circles, so it's a long process. I won't give you all the details, but it's a very long, elaborate process.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for free. And if people want to get trained, then they'll be able to get trained for free. So we will be able to make the work we're doing, we'll be able to offer that to those other groups also. So if they have people that need to be trained and they don't have a training schedule, and it coordinates with our type of training that we have to be doing, which, you know, our training could be mediation training, could be circle training, could be simple restorative. Restorative practices, they're in the gamut from very informal to highly formalized.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be making use of most of those different types.
So are you gonna write a letter to the select board
That's
requesting
what I was
funds?
Is that what I need to do?
Yes.
You bet.
And we're starting in budget right now,
Yeah.
so I would suggest you get that in
Before next
fairly
Monday.
soon.
because
Well, it
I-
doesn't have to be that quick, but not until December 31st, but between now and December 31st, if you wanna get that, then we can add it to the
That's
people
right.
that are asking for money for town meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to do is
Great
write a
idea.
letter describing what you just described and what you can do for the town of Newfane somewhere. That's what they said a couple years ago.
I can
Well,
fix it.
that would be good.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
get more money that way.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. what you
I
guys are all
do
doing.
too.
You know, it's just like, you know, Bucky and Ollie, I mean, you guys are taking a lot of interest in the kids and stuff like that, you know, it's not like we all get your own kids going there either, you're taking it for everybody. Like with Dan, I see him up by the school out there in the morning with the kids, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see people taking interest like that, and a lot more people should.
And giving back, and thank you so much. It sounds wonderful.
And actually the state, I think it was 6 years, a bit of a different guy, David Campbell. They were actually thinking about making restorative practices compulsory in school. And at this meeting I went up to, our job was to give a bunch of information, a white paper or whatever, to the Department of Education because they're trying to figure out how to bring it, and one of the things we said is don't make it compulsory. This is the thing people have to buy into. At any rate, it's interesting because I got into this just by virtue of our principal, but it turns out that all across the state, people are realizing this is a really valuable thing. Not only is it valuable for people's lives, but it saves money, and it makes our schools a better place. So it's becoming more and more common, and so in a lot of ways, it seems like what we're doing is making sense. We're sort of in the beginning stages of things, and we're helping expand the idea of what the practice is about. You'll be hearing more and more, I think, about restorative practices in general.
Well, it's proactive rather than reactive, and.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's reactive, but it's proactive in that it's not just about punishing somebody, it's about figuring out why two people can't walk past each other without wanting to kill each other, you know?
Yeah.
That's why.
So I'm gonna ask you the same question as I asked the young lady before. If people are interested in talking to you about volunteering, do they call you or?
And right now, you can go to our website.
Yeah,
It's
you have
under
it
three
here.
different names, Restorative Community Justice of Southern Vermont, West River Community
Right.
Justice, which is what we
Yeah,
started
you have
as,
it.
and
Yeah.
then the other little letters would be whatever.
Yeah.
If you go to that website, you'll get this.
Right,
So far, you just
but
get
they
this
can
three-page
email
thing
you
and my
directly
address, yeah.
at your email.
So we have 2 or 3 of us who are fully trained, we have a couple people who are partially trained, and everything is kind of on hold until we get our full-time person to hustle.
All right, thank you
Well,
very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are to unscheduled members of the public. Does anybody want to become unscheduled?
Or unhinged.
Any-
That's what my schedule is most of the time.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing.
So we don't have any unscheduled members of the public, so let's try old business. Personnel policy amendments, attorney recommendations,
We
discussion.
do have a letter here. Do we all have the letter?
It's
I
right.
printed mine down.
Do you see the letter?
Yeah, it's
This
right
is
here.
the letter. That's right, everybody got a letter. All right.
Oh, wait, I didn't get that.
It was emailed a while ago.
It was, but
Oh,
how
I have it
unreliable
from
we are at making copies off of the email.
She's got it.
Yeah,
So what do we want to do with it? Adopt it?
Well, 2 weeks ago, is this I think we should read the letter for the public, or should we,
Ken?
or not?
That's fine.
Keep it in the dark?
We know we're in the dark, you've got the light bulb out.
I
so-
know, actually.
Yeah, if you want to read it, go ahead.
Well, what do you think? I think it's everybody who is watching or may watch. All right. We had asked previously for advice from our legal attorney on how to word the change in the personnel policy. And this is the letter back from the attorney. October 25th. Dear Shannon, this is regarding wording in personnel policy and town policy. I have reviewed the sections of the personnel policy. I think the tweak to section B on page 10 addressing the use of town property and equipment is sufficient. With respect to section D on that page, I would suggest it be revised as follows. D. Political activity, political signs, petitions. An employee shall not use his or her official authority for the purpose of interfering with, influencing, or affecting the nomination or election of any candidate for public office in a town, state, or federal election. No employee shall post political signs, distribute political literature, or gather or attempt to gather signatures for any petition for a town vote within town buildings or on town property. This rule shall not be construed to prevent a town employee from becoming or continuing to be a member of any political party, from attending political meetings or signing petitions for a candidate for public office or signing petitions for any town vote. This rule shall not be construed to prevent the town from posting any required town warnings or meeting notices. Because the personnel policy only applies to town employees and elected officials, I would suggest the select board consider adopting a town policy which would be almost identical, so that the same rule would apply to anyone trying to get petitions signed or hand out political literature in the town buildings or on town property. It could read, policy regarding posting or distribution of political literature and circulation of petitions. The posting of a political signs or distributing of political literature in town buildings or on town property shall be prohibited. No persons shall attempt to gather signatures for petitions for town votes in town buildings or upon town property. This policy shall not be construed to prevent the town from posting any required town warnings or meeting notices. The language should certainly be in the personnel policy to avoid the type of situation the select board has just faced, but the select board may or may not want to extend the prohibition to all persons who may come into the town building asking for petition signatures. If that has not been a problem up to this point, then just having it in the personnel policy may be sufficient. Sincerely, Richard C. Carroll.
Comments?
The only thing that I didn't see in section D, first paragraph, is any verbal request to support a particular petition or a political act. And I wonder if we should add something in there about verbally being asked to support a particular position or a particular action.
I think it's clear here that where it says the purpose of interfering with, influencing, or affect the nomination.
Yeah.
That's normally, would
Could be
imply
written
that
or
it's-
verbal or
right.
even nonverbal,
Right.
like,
But it is detailed out in specifics in the last sentence, except for verbal acts. And I
oh,
wonder if we should add that too, because one could say that, yes, it says that in the first part, but then when it specifies what those interfering or influencing or affecting the nomination of election, it specifies what those actions are. It doesn't say anything about verbal.
I would say keep it the way the attorney has said.
Yep.
If I heard this properly, the attorney was addressing the presenting issue, but did I hear that there was a recommendation to go beyond the presenting issue and include all persons?
I didn't hear a recommendation to go beyond,
To go,
Go beyond in what way?
with the verbal.
to include but all people though. In other words, any given person.
No, I didn't either. I think on that, I think this applies to town employees and elected officials,
Only.
but then.
Only, yes.
Only.
We would be invalidating someone's constitutional rights if we
Right,
extended this to
absolutely.
all people.
No,
So that.
I think
Making
we,
sure you're right.
absolutely, yes.
Well, it says no people, no person shall attempt.
Well, this is on the last part of the policy.
Yeah.
It says,
Right, no person shall attempt to get a signature petition.
It says no, this is under policy regarding posting or distribution
Of political literature.
and circulation of petitions, and it says no person shall attempt to gather signatures for town votes or in town buildings or upon town property. So that includes everybody.
But then he also went on to say the language,
this policy shall not
that's right.
be construed.
To prevent the town.
It
from
says the
posting.
language should certainly be in the,
But that's
to
totally
avoid the
different.
situation, but the select board may or may not want to extend the prohibition to all persons who may come into the town building asking for petition signatures. If that has not been a problem up to this point, then just having it in the personnel policy may be sufficient. It hasn't been a problem up to this point.
No. Ken?
Right, and I would just urge that we not, if we don't have
Overreact.
an issue, that we don't overreach here.
That's right,
Right.
that's what I'm thinking.
You
Right.
know, I mean, I think that would be really ill-advised.
That's
Right.
right, I think you're right.
I think we should just,
Mhm.
what is it?
Well, I've heard of instances where the people were verbally
I've heard,
harangued
yep,
into supporting a particular
No, but that
position.
was town employee, not by
No,
anybody
these
else.
were elected officials or town employees.
Yeah, well, so this is addressing that, saying that can't happen anymore.
but I
I'm saying
think
that it doesn't specifically address it.
It doesn't?
specifically in verbalizing,
Right,
say, oh, don't
right.
you wanna, whatever, yeah.
I think it's implied. I'm sorry.
I mean, no matter what somebody tells you, you still vote the way you wanna vote, right?
Right.
I mean, what else
But
do you-
in other states, in other jurisdictions, you can't go up to somebody and say, I want you to vote for bond vote number 1 on the election on the 8th. I want you to support that position because you need to be there and I need your vote for it. And this is saying, you know, you could do that, but you couldn't have a sign, or you couldn't have somebody sign a petition. You could do everything but those things. So a citizen could come in here and be verbally harangued into supporting a particular position. And whether you want that or not, just be aware that it's not prohibited.
So what you wanna do is add a sentence in there?
He wants to add a couple of words. What would you want to add in there for that?
Or ask a voter to support a particular position. We're talking about within the building, employees or elected officials on our property, asking people to support a particular position, asking a voter to support a particular position.
I don't have a problem with that. Do you have a problem with that?
I do. I have a problem with it.
Okay. Do you?
Well, like I said, I think you can talk to anybody, but I mean, they ain't gonna vote the way they don't wanna vote, that's it. So otherwise, you can't talk about nothing, anybody working in the building, right?
Gets down to that, but
I'd just leave it
wasn't
the
that
way
part
it
of the
is.
last complaint?
Why don't you just leave it the way they got it and let it go? I mean, Chris, if somebody wants to talk about something, let them talk.
And if we ever have anything like this, experience anything like we've been experiencing, then we, not we, but I probably be here, but the board can always then go back and rewrite the personnel policy to cover that. Ken?
Yeah, I mean, my own approach personally would be to look for the least restrictive approach at the outset, and then if,
Right,
say, if
give
you
it a
have to-
trial, yep,
I think it's implied,
Yeah,
Yep, it
definitely
is
it's
implied.
it's implied that it's, you know, prohibited, I mean, and other activities strongly discouraged, even if they're not expressly stated.
I feel that the attorney seems to have very carefully told us what to do and thought about what should be said. And if he had wanted to add that, he would have. And if he didn't, I think it's because it's implied. And I agree with Ken.
Are you making a motion?
Am I making a motion about what?
What you just talked about,
To
Well,
accept the,
to accept what the attorney,
I make a motion to accept what the attorney said, and then people can
what
vote
he's
on
written.
it. What
Second.
is written in this letter,
Second.
and not add anything else.
The motion's been made and seconded to go by the letter that the attorney gave us for the personnel policy as written.
That's so good.
Is there any other discussion? I won't say it again, but hearing none. You have to say, do you want to say something?
oh,
You can.
no,
I'm waiting.
Gonna have to wait a long time.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? The ayes have it. Shannon, is that something you can put into the personnel
Yeah,
policy?
so I'll just make those changes to the personnel policy. We've already made the changes to the other part of it, and I'll have it ready. Ready to sign it next meeting.
And only Todd has to sign it, is that correct?
No, the whole board has to
Oh,
sign
we,
it.
oh.
Okay, we're down to correspondence. Well, actually, we have one more
Thank you
thing.
so much for coming.
Bye-bye, and
Thanks.
thank you.
This is some,
Just sign it.
this just needs to be signed. We approved this at the last meeting. So
Okay.
if everybody just wants to sign it.
Thank you, Ken, for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correspondence, I don't think we had much except for, I don't know, there was a brochure here somewhere. Did you,
There's something,
it's the VLCT news that most of you guys get anyways, right? Either paper or.
Oh.
No, it was
and more.
online.
Online.
yeah, it
I
comes
get
online.
it, I get it on, yeah. Other than that, there wasn't much, right? So we're down to pay orders.
Yay,
Lucky you.
lucky me. I'm so excited.
There was one item in here from,
Oh, God.
yeah,
Are we finished?
Thank you.
You
from Bud.